Now the short story, When the Door Sighs, by Michael Carson. It's read by Mark Lambert.
It was all very sudden. Patrick Wharton woke up one morning in February and found that he was looking down on his bed from above. At first he thought he was dreaming, that it was somebody else lying in the bed. He even found himself feeling great sympathy for the poor man lying below him, a man not unlike himself, with tubes leading from him, a nurse taking his pulse. A reproduction of Constable's Hay Wain hung on the wall opposite. The man had his eyes open and was regarding the painting with some distaste. Poor bugger, thought Patrick Wharton. Then Patrick Wharton slipped off the ceiling and was suddenly that poor bugger, thinking, that damn picture, it follows me everywhere, even into the hospital. Then the truth hit him. He jerked in the bed, and the nurse turned towards him anxiously, worried that something beyond her competence was happening. He felt the nurse's hand on his forehead, saw her young face for a moment through wide eyes. Then he closed those eyes abruptly, and saw the kindly face of the nurse, surrounded by an aura of light and pinpricks of falling stars and primary colors, emphasized by the surrounding blackness. The door to his room opened, then shut slowly with a sigh made by the automatic door closers. He thought about door closers waiting behind every door like a one-armed bandit. Then he thought about one-armed bandits, another item in the material world he had never given much thought to. Then he was back to door closers. How did they work? Who had invented them? Had the inventor retired rich and died a happy and fulfilled man? Or had he been cheated of his patent by some robber baron to die in penury? And if the inventor of automatic door closers had indeed retired, why had he retired before he had ironed out the problem of the sigh? How much irritation, even sorrow, that sigh must have caused. It was beginning to make Patrick want to cry. He heard the nurse running down the corridor, could imagine the sight of her stocking legs in danger of being tripped by the gingham skirt. Voices from the office and two people dashing back towards his room. "Get Dr. Sullivan!" Patrick Wharton opened his eyes, saw the Hay Wain, closed them again, little knowing then that his eyes had taken their last look. Too busy telling himself that his turn had perhaps not come. After all, he thought, as the nurses wiped away the blood from his mouth, it's amazing what they can do these days. Joan and the newsagents had said that just the other day, referring to one of her customers whose daily mirrors had built up on the hall rug until they had read, "Something's wrong," through the glass of the door. The newspaper boy had told Joan his worries, and the police had broken in to find the not-so-old lady within, comatose in front of breakfast time. Joan had been wrong in that case. The woman had died owing 2 weeks. It was amazing how much money Joan lost from people just dying on her. It was one of the risks of the business. And if I am to die, thought Patrick, what will Joan say when she hears the news? Will she lean against the till drawer, exhale, "He hasn't, has he?" Then, "Did I take for the Kit Kat? The poor bugger. He was in here. When was it? Well, last week. Done up in his cycling togs. Those new Lurex leggings in black. Tell the truth, they didn't do anything for him. Well, I know. You've got to have the figure. Dead, is he? Well, it just goes to show." Patrick was aware of the doctor, tried to open his eyes to see the doctor, to move his lips, to say, "Thank you, doctor," when the doctor felt him with his cold hands. But his eyes would not function, and his polite phrase came out as a whimper. "No," he decided, "I won't talk again if that's how it sounds. I must just stay calm and see, well, feel what happens. It's amazing what they can do. It's amazing, really, what they can do. It is really amazing what they can do. No, can do. No can do? Strange expression, that. Probably Yank. "I don't think there's much more we can do," said the doctor. "No," replied the nurse. "Perhaps add 10 milligrams to the morphine solution." "Right you are, Doctor." "Right you are, Doctor," thought Patrick Wharton. "Is that it? Is that the extent of the expertise of modern medicine? Must there no more be done? I'll write to my MP. I do not wish to die, Mr. Bledfordbuck. Bump up the morphine and bump off the poor bugger. It isn't good enough, and I shall not vote for you in the next election. Accept a proxy plague on both your houses." Patrick laughed inwardly. Then he was serious as the situation became clear and the door closer sighed. "It isn't good enough. I am not good enough to die. I'm not ready to die. So much left to do and achieve and amend. I'm not ready, and I think it a pretty poor show." Somewhere to his left, 2 nurses were fiddling with something. He heard a sound like an electric razor starting, stopping, starting again. "Make sure the clamp fits snugly over the syringe," said one of the nurses. "Otherwise the patient doesn't get the full dose at the right interval." "They're temperamental, and that's a fact," said the companion. "When do you get off?" 7. "Going to the Rose?" "No, Ben's taken me to his mum's for dinner." Sounds serious." The other nurse didn't reply, and Patrick was left wondering whether her affair with Ben was serious or not. Still, Ben's a good solid name. Much better than Bill. Roughly on a par with Tom, but Ben's a bit more of a novelty. He tried again to open his eyes, but nothing happened. He badly wanted to know, and the realization that he would never, in all probability, learn the end of the story of the nurse and Ben filled him with sadness. What was the nurse's name? He didn't even know that. Not to know the name of his angel, and not for the first time either. The door opened, and the sister told the nurses to stop gossiping. Didn't they know that hearing was the last faculty to go? They must exercise sensitivity around the patient. He might be able to hear everything. And had the relatives been informed? Was he C of E, Catholic, something exotic, or don't know? Well, Patrick thought, that wasn't very sensitive. She's just told me everything that I would rather not know. I can hear. Is that it? He thought of a large ear lying in bed, the sheet drawn up as far as the half-moon top. The joke when he heard it and cracked it. At school? In the staff room? A cruel joke from the distant past. That's not my baby. That's not my baby. It is, I'm afraid, and I have some bad news for you. He's deaf. The best part is that now I'm only an ear. If I could laugh, now might be the time. Do I want to go out with a laugh? How do I want to go? Shall I go as my audience wishes? Shall I surprise them? Shall I go out my own way? But then, trying to open his stuck eyes reminded Patrick that he had already gone. It's over, but it isn't finished. It is as plain as the ear in your face that I am dying. I never thought it would come to this. Of course, in some part of me I knew it would. I knew and didn't know all at the same time, just as I believed and didn't believe. Well, here I am. Am I about to make a deathbed conversion? Hail Mary, full of grace. She was, too, full of it. Like an overfilled pint pot, Mary's grace flowed down her like foam. God, I could do with a pint. Dad was given a Mackeson's every night in hospital. He drank his last one down, placed it neatly on the bedside table, said, "That was just the job, Dad," and fell back dead, just as I was popping in a grape from the bedside table. He caved in, and I cracked the grape. Its taste was still in my mouth as I was signing the forms. I said to everyone, it was as easy as falling off a log. He went just like that. I hope it's as easy for me. It ought to be. I did the 9 First Fridays and devotions. Some time ago, I'll admit, but I did them. But maybe this is the chance now, at this very moment, to recant, to relent, to Oh, Oh my God, because thou art so. Oh my God, because thou art so good. I am very sorry that I have sinned against thee, and by the help of thy grace I will not sin again. Not that I'm going to get the chance. Question is, would I if I could? Well, that depends on the sin, doesn't it? Assuming it was a sin. Decisions. I'm not fit to make decisions. Patrick heard footsteps and the sigh of the door closer, then nothing more for a too long moment. He looks very peaceful, said Patrick Wharton's sister. He's got a good colour too, said Patrick's sister's girlfriend, whom Patrick had never liked. Oh, it's hard to credit that there's no hope. I told him he was a fool to ride round the city on his bike. He was an accident waiting to happen. Biking for him was a sort of political point, said Patrick's sister, her voice breaking. I'll burn my bike, screamed Patrick inwardly. He was always making political points. But what's the point, I say? The patient may be able to hear you, cautioned the nurse. But he couldn't. My cycling. Shall I offer my cycling to the Lord as my one good act? After all, I was giving a good example, trying to save the planet in my own small way. I always turned off lights religiously too, and the gas. Christ, did I leave the gas on when I left the house to go to the National and... Well, it must have happened on the way. I'm sure I'd have remembered the play. After the fall. Don't remember a thing about it. The question is, did I leave it on? I was slow cooking a bran loaf. I always leave it on to slightly overcook it and keep it hot just as I like it. Well, I don't like it much, but I do the following morning. A good 3-flusher. There's nothing like it. Do you see that? Do you think he's trying to tell us something? Asked his sister. He's past all that now, said the nurse. That's the truth, nurse, Patrick thought. It would have been nice to arrive at this moment quite prepared. The gas off, a life of quiet virtue safely stacked away, the paper bill paid, the homeless, now housed, calling at the hospital and telling the sister how I had offered him and many others my spare bedroom. You wouldn't take a penny. I swear to God, without Patrick I'll still be on the streets, and that's a fact. It gave me a breathing space. If there's a heaven, then I know that's where Patrick is. Letters coming in from the hungry I sponsored round the starved world. Yes, it would be nice. Instead I spent my money on weight-on food supplements and compact discs and carbon fibre frames for the bike. When the moment comes, I'll just be one more Adam, his nose in the dirt, offering a few scraps of mixed motive generosity to weigh against a life devoted to ducks and doilies. What will God make of me? Will it be pitchforks and leering red devils for all eternity? Or will I scrape through like the last fat kid picked for a football team? His breathing's very irregular. It can't be long now, said the nurse. Just goes to show, said Patrick's sister's friend. What does that mean, you silly woman? Your turn will come, thought Patrick uncharitably. Then he recited another act of contrition, his second in 5 minutes, his second in 40 years. He heard very dimly footsteps and, from a great distance, the sighing as the door closed. He thought of the gas at home, worried about it for a while. Then he remembered the inventor of those automatic door closers. Had he been hauled over the coals for not banishing the sigh? He hoped not, and said a prayer for the inventor. After all, without the sigh, he wouldn't have known the door was closing, even that there was a door to close. He sighed.
Mark Lambert read When the Door Sighs by Michael Carson. The producer was Peter Kavanagh.